I was 9-time world tag team champions. And you know, then you get your smart marks that tell you, well, you lost them 9 times. No, but you don't understand.
It is a great honor for me to be joined with one of the greatest tag teams of all time, the Rock and Roll Express, the legendary Ricky Morton. Mr. Morton, thank you very much for joining me in this interview.
Hey, buddy, thank you very much. And I know we're doing this from a long way away, but we're cutting out a lot right now. Uh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you pretty well. How?
Okay. All right. Well, great. Now I can hear you good. Hey, thank you for the intro. I appreciate that. Man, there's a lot of great tag teams out there, but in our day, uh, thank you for saying what you did for us.
No, of course, the Rock and Roll Express is a favorite, like in the whole world. I just want to start the interview, man. How did you come with the idea about coming up with that Canadian destroyer? That was absolutely insane, man. How did you come up with such idea?
Well, you know, in our business, you're only as good as your opponent. That night, we're at Joey Janela's summer vacation show, and we're wrestling Santana and
Right.
Otis. I mean, this is before they went to AEW, and you see, I'm from the old school. We don't call spots in the back, and all I know is he told me to come off his partner's back and sunset flip him and hold on, and I did that. If you watch the tape back, you can see I stand up and go, "What the heck was that? What was that?" Yeah, I know
That
a move I never seen before. But you see that those two guys are great tag teams. Uh, that's in the AEW, you know, and it's the first time I ever worked with those two guys, and I got to say, as for me being in the business all these years, man, they were absolutely phenomenal. They are a great tag team.
I love that match. Absolutely, it was amazing. It's a great segue, man. The Rock and Roll Express, almost 40 years longevity. That is unbelievable. And until like to this day, you are killing it in Ring of Honor and AEW, winning the NWA Championship against. This is a two-part question. First of all, like you are still in absolutely amazing shape. What is the secret behind that? Like Rick Morton can still go strong until this day and age.
You got a party every night? No, I'm just kidding. Uh, you know what? I take care of myself. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I'm in the gym every day. And like I was telling you earlier, and please understand this, it's the guys that we get in the ring with. Uh, you're only as good as your opponent, and the guys out of the respect and all the things that Robert and I went to. The guys enjoy working with us, and they make us look good. Uh, I still really enjoy this business. And you just said something there, Ring of Honor, NWA, AEW. Uh,
In
I'm
New
gonna let little
Japan as well.
cat. Yes, I'm gonna let little cat out of the bag. I don't know when this will be posted, but Robert and I are gonna be back at AEW, and
Yes.
we're just looking forward. It's excitement, man, when these big promotions call you and asked you to come back in and do things. And God, man, I was just thrilled. I just hear I got chill bumps on my arms from
That's
thinking
awesome.
about it.
I think like you guys, your comeback and having such great matches until this day, it's a proof like you, uh, that
Go ahead.
wrestling, it's not about like it seems in this day and age, it's always about athleticism, about high flying cool spots. But you guys like prove this is not always the case to have such a great match.
Gosh, I'm glad you asked that question uh, because if you go on my Facebook, School of Morton, I have a wrestling school, and every Sunday at 5:05 Eastern Time on YouTube, School of Morton. I have a live show that comes from my school. If you get a chance, you get to watch it. And this is what I try to preach to all my boys at the wrestling school. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Uh, you don't have to shoot a person out of a cannon to make the people pop. You know, it's learning our business. It's knowing what to do at the right time. But the most important thing is learning how to cover up your mistakes in the ring. And if you notice, guys these days, they're out there, they're doing 7,000 hot spots in one match. And when as they're going, and if it messes up, everybody in the world knows it, and you got the crowd out there hollering, "You blanked up, you
Yeah,
blanked up," and
exactly.
it's I love my business, but it's a difference. And I've been watching, and I'm not, please, I love the boys of my business. I love the big companies of our business. This week I watched NXT. I watched Monday Night Raw, and I don't know. I don't know if it's the guys that don't have the crowd behind them. And I got to say this: my hats off to everybody for wrestling in front of no crowd. Very hard because I know about me. I feed off the fans, and please, when wrestling backs up, across the country or other countries and where you're from, I mean, come and see us. This is a business that we live off the fans, and we feed off their energy. So when our wrestling business opens back up, please come out for a great night of entertainment. But working a match, and it's hard. I'm not going. I didn't walk 30 miles to school barefooted. Okay, but years ago, we never had a chance to talk in the back. Our
Mm,
business was so sacred. You understand what I'm saying? Sacred, so
yeah,
sacred that nobody knew.
mm,
We didn't know who's going to win or lose until we got in the ring
right.
because they didn't want nobody to know.
Mm,
Uh, so you didn't have time to sit down and go over every step into the ring. And nowadays, when I'm watching NWA, and I'm not NWA. I'm sorry, NWA is the one that don't do it. They're still old school. I'm talking about NXT
right.
and Raw. It's the matches is so it's like they're doing a ballet instead of
Yes.
wrestling. Every move, and you could tell uh,
Mm,
nobody sells for each other. Do you understand our business? Do you know what I mean by selling?
yes,
You know,
definitely.
oh no, yes, when it's not realistic to
Right.
kick a guy in the face 47 times. You
Mm,
hear me?
yes.
Sometimes, see, as for me, I could sell one kick
Right.
better than I can 47 kicks.
Right.
And if the guys would understand that, they have our business has got such a high pace. I don't
Right.
I don't know what they're trying to where they're going to after this.
Definitely.
Uh, you get back into to your storytelling is what's important to me.
Also, so as you are saying, of course, you were the benchmark when it comes to selling. Everybody sitting sell like Ricky
Thank you.
Morton, and like you give them a glimpse about what does that mean. And I agree with you. Right now, when we watch wrestling, it feels like as you said, a ballet or as a showcase. Where back in your days, it felt like a wrestling match and it represented in the crowd. It felt. Do you feel like right now the crowd is more of playing like playing as being a great crowd instead of in the 80s and the 70s? I can like feel they were really cheering and booing passionately.
Oh yes, they really got away from that. But what you just asked me, It's like when and plus you got to understand, I had some of the greatest heels in the world to work with. The Midnight Express with Jimmy Cornette, Ole, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, Ivan
Amazing.
Koloff, uh, Barry Dorso. Some of the greatest heels in our business to work with, and they knew taking their time and letting me sell for them. But
Mm.
when I was in a match, and I'd always do this because we wrestled, and we were at NWA for Jimmy Crockett. We were doing so much good business, we didn't go to little venues more. They went to big ones, and see, and what I was selling, realistically in my mind, if I could make the guy sitting on the front row really believe what they're doing to me was really happening, think about what that guy up in that balcony was thinking, or the person at TV at home watching on their front things. You see, and that's being a baby face. And a lot of guys don't understand this. And these days, the people paid their money to see me win the championship. That's why I never liked to have belts.
Right.
I was 9-time world tag team champions. And then you get your smart marks that tell you, well, you lost them 9 times. No, but you don't understand. The baby faces always got to chase the heel,
The
and
cheese.
that's why they buy their tickets. And
Mm.
they got completely away from that.
Right.
Now it's not about, uh, I don't know, because I haven't been around. I know they're trying to get ratings on TV. But sometimes, to me, it's more. I think the ratings will be better if they go back to those. That's the reason NWA Power did so good.
Yes.
Uh, I was lucky in our business is being at the right place at the right time, even being an old man.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Uh,
Definitely.
I didn't know that we were going to win the NWA titles, and I love this to like 5 minutes before we went to the ring, and
Awesome.
uh, and it really blew my mind. Uh,
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, why? But then I understood after watching the shows, the storytelling and what they were doing, and it was really cool. I really, before this coronavirus shutdown,
Mm.
I was really having a great time.
Right.
Not only that, but working behind the scenes and trying to teach the guys about the true tag team wrestling, uh, the 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 psychology of it.
Yep.
That was the whole point.
So speaking of the psychology, when let's say I'm going to ask you, what is a great match or what is a great tag team match for Ricky Morton? Is there a manual? What does make a great match for you as a fan? Let's say if you are
Oh,
watching a match.
okay, you asked. I'm kind of sorry you kind of cut out on me right there.
Sorry. So I'm going to repeat the question. What does a great match mean for Ricky Morton? Like what makes a great match for you? Is it the crowd reaction, the work rate itself?
No, 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 no. Well, the crowd reaction's got to do with everything. But you see, when you try to tell that story in a match, you see, in our day, when we ran that show that night, well, either we was coming back next week or 2 weeks. You hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you got to tell. To me, was the fit, and I know I'm jumping around,
No, that's awesome.
but listen, and when the guys uh, understand this, see, our match is about the finishes, and when you could tell that story about that finish, the people pay, like I says, the people pay to see me win. But if
Mm.
I could tell that story of the heel, I mean, me never dying, me fighting back, me not just all up, but making it look like it's so real. And then I give Robert that hot tag, boy, and then you can hear the crowd. It's all part of it.
Right.
But the finish of the match, that's what you're wanting, because see, we're gonna have to come back in 2 weeks. And if
Right.
I don't sell for these heels, and it's just a shitty match, excuse my language, if it's just
Right.
shitty, you understand me? The people are not going to pay their money to come back. See, we're already here that night. Okay,
Right.
we're working for the next show. And when you understand that, when you work for the next show, that's what gets the people's interest. And that's a good match to me. I'm telling that story. It don't matter
Right.
if I win or lose. It's just getting the people to come back, or getting the people to watch the TV next week. You know, it's keeping her in. It's like a soap opera. You know, you got to wait. You cut them off. On my School of Morton show, I sometimes like the last match, especially because it's my main event. The finish, I cut it off, for they can't see it the next week.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it gets her, and you know they're going to stay tuned and see back to watch it next week to see what happened. You know, and don't get me wrong, it's a YouTube show. I'm School of Morton. I don't have the big sponsors. I don't. I just do it by myself with my boys at the school. All my talent is made and created at my school. But when you go to from 1,000 people in the world watching it, and I think last Sunday we had almost 20,000 watching it in the first match.
Right.
See, that's a lot of people, buddy. Believe it or not, I don't have commercials on TV telling me it's coming on here. I don't have none of that, but I have an interest in people, and I get a lot of comments. They tell me, Ricky Morton, your show's like NWA was in the '80s. Well, see, that's a compliment to me. That's what I'm trying to prove, because our wrestling business is never dead.
Right.
It's just they got a different expect on, look out on it. I don't know, somewhere in that form. I hope I answered the question right for you.
Do you think it is harder, like recently, with like it seems all the fans are really like they got smart in the business with social media and everything? Is it harder to get them emotionally invested in a match or a storyline, where in the 80 you would say not everybody are smart and up in the business? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but understand this. And I hope nobody takes this personal. But you see, if you've never been in a wrestling ring, if you've never not in this business, you see, and this is some of the guys and some of the people that are in charge of our business. You think you know, but you really don't know shit. You don't know. You know, everybody thinks they know, they don't. Your opinion is like my ass. Everybody's got one. You see, you don't know until you've been there. You don't know. I have people that hit me up on Facebook. They trying to tell me that I don't. I made a comment on AEW where they did a great job, and I'm telling you, a great job of storytelling. And I try to bet, but then you have the cult of Cornette, and don't get me wrong, I love Jimmy Cornette. There's nothing that he can ever do to make me not love him. I don't care what he does. Cuss me out, call me anything he wants to, because he knows what I know.
Right.
And these people don't have a clue that on his podcast, he tries to get ratings too to make it up. So he's going to say all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
And see, the smart hearts don't understand that.
Definitely.
They think that he's really talking to them, and really he don't give a damn about nobody. You hear me? Okay, go ahead.
I want to cover some of the highlights of you and Ricky highlights through your careers. One of my favorite matches of all time, when you first entered the NWA around 1985, I believe, against the Russians, where you guys won the NWA Tag Team championship, man. What an awesome match. What are your memories of such match?
Well, great. And thank you very much for saying that, because until the moment
Mm.
that they put us into the WWE Hall of Fame, that was the greatest moment in our career. Now, to understand that, for me to explain this situation, Robert and I worked territories and we worked hard. Uh, Robert and I, uh, for some reason, the chemistry when we first teamed up, it just clicked. And my dad, I'm a second generation, and I have a son that's going to be third generation.
Nice.
But my dad told me, he says, tag team wrestling is where it's going. And this is in the early 80s. And he did. And I went through a lot of tag team partners, Ken Lucas, Sonny King, Eddie Gilbert. And then when Robert and I get together, him being partners with his brother and me, it clicked. And working so hard. And this is what's good. And it goes back to a question that you asked me earlier about the people and that I was talking about. See, nobody knew that Robert and I were going to win the world titles.
Yes.
I did. Hey, Robert did. But we're in Shelby, North Carolina. And see, some of your greatest matches
Mm.
is it's created. It's like painting a picture inside the ring. It's like you're watching me on TV and we're painting you a picture by the numbers. You hear what I'm saying?
Right.
Uh, and we're in the ring with Ivan Koloff and Barry Dorso, which is Crusher Khrushchev. You see, to create that. And Dusty, at the time, and I got to say this, Dusty, to make everything right, Dusty was an unbelievable booker in our business. Nowadays they call them shot callers, but I don't know what the hell that means. But he was a great booker. And from us being in Louisiana, working for Bill Watts, we were still there. We just flew in to do that TV because we're starting to. Do you understand what I mean by bicycle tape? Bicycle tapes is where you film, but it goes around to different towns. Like sometimes
Right.
it's 2 weeks behind
Mm.
in some of the towns, because you wasn't on national TV just yet.
Right.
Then we went in to end up, to Ted Turner's, uh, 605 Superstation. But we told the story right. And at the time, see, years ago, the heels will be the Germans. I don't know if you went back in history.
Right.
So we're having the conflict, but it's just great. The drama that's dug up in politics and all that bullshit.
Right.
But at that time, the Russians, Ivan and Nikita, and they had more heat because Ivan could talk, and Barry Dorso and Ivan could work their behinds off.
Right.
They had beat everybody in the territory. I'm talking from Magnum TA and Dusty to Manny Fernandez and all. I mean, they beat every babyface tag team, every babyface in the country. And then they shot videos of us and sent into North Carolina.
Mm.
And normally at TV, you have a list of the matches on the wall. This TV, Dusty told me, I'm not going to put a list up there because nobody knows. And I just know that Robert and I, because they had matches down, but nobody knew, our match went the whole hour. And,
Yes, I do remember
the
that.
whole hour. And without going over anything.
Wow.
Anything in the back, because you have to kayfabe. We kayfabe.
Right.
Heels are down to this end, baby faces on this end. That was the first time, and trust me, when we stepped in the ring that night, I already worked with Barry Dorso. He was in Louisiana as Crusher Khrushchev before he went to NWA.
Oh, I
That was
see.
the first time I ever met Ivan Koloff.
Wow.
Is when I stepped into the ring with him in Shelby, North Carolina, and what a workhorse! Oh my gosh! I mean, he
Amazing.
could just go, and it was. But our chemistry with him, you see, when you have four great workers in the ring, it all comes together. It's just
Yeah.
painting that picture that I was telling you. And that was the greatest. I had a lot of matches, don't get me wrong. Ourselves and the Midnight Express, we made history in professional wrestling.
Right.
The Express against the Express. That
Think the
made
longest
history.
was it the
And
longest tag? Is it the longest tag team rivalry of all time?
hey, still going on.
Yeah.
Still going on.
Right.
No, yes, it is. And but
So tell us.
winning the titles that night at that time was the greatest thing that Robert and I had accomplished because I'm telling you, at that time, it was the real world tag team champions.
Speaking of the Midnight Express, like what was the difference between the combination of Bobby Eaton and Dennis Connery and Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane? Were there any differences?
Well, there's differences, but this is a hard thing to do. In our day, everybody that you met wasn't a wrestler. Okay.
Yes.
Nowadays, when I go everywhere I meet, I wrestle. They try to give me the wrestler's handshake, and they don't even know what that really means. Uh, you see, Dennis Condrey was the leader of the pack.
Okay.
Back in Louisiana, when we started our angle with the Midnight Express, and serious in the ring, Dennis was directing traffic. You hear me? He was
Yes.
great. And now we went to Charlotte, NWA for Jimmy Crockett, and then here comes, then here comes the Midnight Express. Boy, we're selling out everywhere. Then just all of a sudden, the next day, Dennis Condrich is not there.
Wow.
You understand? And I still, as this day, because I never asked him.
Mm.
I don't know why you left, but I just know. But I was conducting business. I had to do business.
Right.
And Dusty brought Stan Lane in out of Florida. And this happened to us twice in my career. But we have such great workers that and Jimmy Cornette was such a great talker that when they brought Stan Lane in with Jimmy Cornette's talking and Stan Lane's great work, it was like he never left. I mean,
Mm.
it just kept going on, and I can't tell you a difference
Wow. Right.
of guys. People ask me all the time, "What's the greatest match you ever had?" All of them was the greatest match I ever had because at that time, everybody was such great workers. Uh,
Right.
they were fantastic. But to tell you the truth, the same thing is none of them ever missed a league, and it happened in Smoky Mountain Wrestling too. But that
Mm.
was Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard,
Right.
and then Stan, and I'm thinking this, and bless his heart, Jimmy Del Rey, he's dead now, he died, but Stan Lane left, and here we go. I walk into the dressing room. I got to see this guy. He says, Jimmy Cornette told me Stan Lane left, and this is going to be the new Heavenly Body.
Yep.
And this is a redheaded guy with a tooth knocked out. And
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, gee. But then I went to the ring, and as soon as I locked up with him, I went, holy shit, this guy's great.
Right.
And it never missed a beat.
Right. Uh, you had what? You have like a really awesome program against Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. How did you like working as a single wrestler, especially against Ric Flair?
Wow. You know, in our business, and I'm going to answer this question, but I just want you to see, when you ask me something like that, it's a lot of things that glue into that one question.
Definitely.
Uh, our business, and I don't care if it's NXT, Raw, AEW, NWA, Ring of Honor, and New Japan, it's being at the right place at the right time,
Right.
a professional wrestler. But what they asked you to do, you have the capability of doing it.
Mm.
Now, when they were grooming Magnum TA to be the heavyweight champion, and they were grooming him, and unfortunately, he had a car wreck that broke his neck,
That's right.
and he couldn't wrestle. Now, see, the whole thing they've been grooming for, it's gone. It flares in the code, and just so happened, Robert got hurt.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
And I'm wrestling on TV at a single match. I never forget. It's one of the Rock and Roll RPMs. I don't know if you remember that group. I was wrestling one of them in a single match on TV, and Ric Flair was watching. But Rick was always a big fan of the Rock and Roll Express, even before that.
Mm.
And he's watching, and I think him and Dusty, and see it, like I said, to be at the right place at the right time.
Mm.
He says, God, I want to work with him. But see, it's being at the right place at the right time.
And he saw money. He saw huge money.
Oh, unbelievable. We broke records that they said that would never be broken again.
Right.
Rick, and let me tell you something about Ric Flair, and it's not being taken away from anybody else in this business. You see, it's a lot of things that made Ric Flair the best heavyweight champion ever in our business. The one thing is, when I first started my thing with Rick, we went an hour, 17 days in a row, every night. But on Saturday, we did two because we run two shows. On Sunday,
Right.
we did two. But that's not saying too much, because if you wasn't going an hour time limit, Ricky wrestled you 58 minutes of an hour time. Because why? He gave the people their money's worth.
Right.
Every time. I don't care if he wasn't feeling good or if it wasn't this. There was never an excuse with him. He gave you your money's worth. And that's what I respected about Ric Flair. That's what I loved working with Ric Flair. And then again, Rick and I, we broke records of it. I remember the first time I met him in Charlotte. And this is another thing that Rick did. I was wrestling a guy not too long ago. And he tells me, when I go out, the people might cheer me. And I looked at him, I said, they're going to cheer you because you want them to. If you don't want them to, they won't. You see what I'm saying?
This makes sense.
Rick was the king of Charlotte, North Carolina, that area, that whole mid-Atlantic area, buddy. I don't care if he was a heel or not. But when you go out in Charlotte, North Carolina, which Robert and I had a lot of the little curls, and boom. When I went out in Charlotte, half the people cheered Rick and half the people cheered me. But 5 minutes in that match, there wasn't a person in that building cheering Ric Flair. That's how that's how good he was. You understand me?
Right.
And that's the reason our angle was so successful, because no matter what, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I don't know. I mean, have you been to the States? But that was the number one greatest heel town I've ever been in my life, dude.
Wow.
I don't care.
Yes.
Them people don't even like ice cream. You hear me?
I'm sure they are tough crowd, right?
Yeah. But Rick and I were supposed to do an hour wrestling match there. And when Rick went to the ring, they're cheering. And when I come out, you know me, you sissy, bad, you bad, you got. 10 minutes into the match, he had changed the whole crowd, everybody.
Wow, yeah.
I'm talking 10,000 people. You hear me?
Amazing.
We had the barricades around the ring. They were so mad at Rick They pushed the barricades all the way up to the ring.
Wow.
Arn Anderson came down. Robert had to come down. But what they did was get their attention because Rick told me in a match, we couldn't go an hour. He says, listen, I'm going to have to get disqualified because if I don't, these people are going to kill me. And they were.
Yeah.
And it got that bad. It got to that riot
Mm.
syndrome.
Right.
So Ricky got disqualified. And when he did, Robert jumps up on that. And I go to Robert. That way the crowd's looking at us. And Ricky and Arn went out the back to the security if they get back to the dressing room because the people were so mad. God, their butt could dip Red Man. They were really mad.
What was it? Was it his body language? Was it his intensity? What was it that made the crowd hate him so much?
It's because it's called being the best worker in the business. Okay. Just knowing what to do, you know.
That's
a lot of guys don't understand that these days, you know. They think a big high spot is what gets you over, but it's not.
Not
It's
right.
the well, hell, I can't even pronounce it. I'm so country. Psychology of the ring. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He knows how to paint that picture, and it's only a few bucks. You know, I'm not taking away nothing from nobody.
Right.
There's a lot of great workers in our business, but you can't compare to Ric Flair. He's the best of ever. And no, it's like Charlotte, his daughter. You know, she's the queen.
Yeah, she has the genes. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of being a heel and baby faces, some years ago I got like a tape of the WWF tours in Germany and Europe, and what surprised me, the Rock and Roll Express were having matches against the Smoking Guns, but you guys were the heel. I was so shocked. Do you remember?
Well, you know, because yes, I sure do. It was, you know, and understand me. This is why I like Jimmy Cornette. Matter of fact, I love Jimmy Cornette. Our business, you know, I wasn't there. I was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling closed down. Well, see, with Jimmy, got us a job at WWF. It wasn't what we done or what gonna do. He got us a paycheck every week, and see, that was the part of it. The Smoking Guns, that was Bart and Billy Gunn. It's just there, you know, and you fed off the crowd. We went to the ring and the people booed us. So when they booed us, we just did ill. I didn't care. You know, I was just trying to, I wanted to make that happen. You know, I worked till a couple of times, the York Foundation, and but it's just a part of not me turning heel that I wanted to. It's just because I needed a job. I never had a contract. I never signed a contract in my life for wrestling. I always got paid by how many behinds were in the seats. And that was bad because the promoter always got the first count, you know.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it had to, just the way it was, fella. And this is why I try to tell my students, and it's like my son. He's 19. He's wanting to break into business, which he's great. He's really good, but I want him to get his education. And I tell him, I says, you don't know if I would have had my education, I'd be rich right now, because I didn't know. I didn't know at the time how bad the promoters screwed us around, and just a lot of things. You know, and I'm just telling you truthfully, we got robbed. But I can't sit here and cry over spilt milk. I got to go on.
A lot of people, when the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty started the WWF, there were a lot of comparison between the Rock and Roll Express and them. Did you see such comparison? And what did you think of the Rockers?
Okay, yeah. To me, I took it as a compliment. I didn't take it as heat. You got to understand, I knew Shawn Michaels when he was a kid. Marty, I met him later on. But you know what? In the Memphis, after, that was an AWA. Is It's when they first started that, and it was all right with me, but yeah, I didn't care. Look at Shawn. He turned out to be had one of the greatest runs ever in
Definitely.
WWE.
Right.
Marty, it's decisions that he made. It wasn't because of anything else. This is something I was telling you earlier about, education, and I'm not calling him a dumbass. So please don't think I
No,
am.
definitely.
But it's, you have to pave your own path
Yeah.
in our business. It's nothing that Shawn did. Shawn was phenomenal worker, and Marty was too. Uh, and it went on. But as to me, I have a lot of people to ask me that. What did I think about them? Not only they took the rock and roll, but they took the midnight, called themselves the Midnight Rockers.
Right.
But it's cool.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I was glad for them because they had a hell of a run at WWF, and
Right.
then when Shawn super kicked him through the barbershop window,
Ortundo, yeah.
Shawn went on from there to make millions.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And
Absolutely.
that's great. It's good.
Hey, Rick, and our last segment, you are going to be joined by the number one YouTuber in my country, Bahrain. He's a big fan of you as well, and he's going to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, man. How you doing, fella?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I can hear you now.
So it's a pleasure being here, Rick and Hassan. My first question is, what do you think about the possible team of FTR with Jim Cornette?
What do I think about it? I
Yeah,
think it'd be great for them to have a manager like that. But I'm watching how they're telling stories, and I can see uh, Jimmy Cornette will be great with them. But I was telling him earlier, Jimmy has got off into his podcast
yeah,
and everything like that right there. And it's not him. It's just him trying to get his ratings on his podcast. God, he's got a lot of heat with people. You know what I'm saying? But it's all right. That's Jimmy. And if
yeah,
people would understand it, that's Jimmy. I was
yeah,
telling him earlier that, you know, there's nothing Jimmy Cornette can do to make me not love him. You
yeah.
understand me? I mean, because he gets a lot of heat with a lot of people, but sometimes it's not because he don't like you; it's because of ratings. Uh, but as I'm watching AEW, and that's the reason I like their shows is storytelling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should say much, but I could see them, and then in the background I see Tully Blanchard. In the background I see
Yeah.
Arn Anderson. I might even see the Rock and Roll Express showing up in the future. Don't
Oh,
know, but you see, it's it's storytelling,
yeah.
and and the opportunities come, man. I mean, it's a great thing you mentioned there. Uh,
Um,
but
so
sometimes situations like that get out of hand. Go ahead.
So my second question, you started a petition on Instagram to induct the Midnight Express to the WWE Hall of Fame in 2021. So why do you think the Midnight Express hasn't been inducted yet to the WWE Hall of Fame?
What do I think? Uh, really, buddy, it might be. Boy, you're putting me on fire. You're throwing the gasoline on me, aren't you? Uh, Jimmy, I guess Jimmy burned a lot of bridges,
Yeah,
but I don't think, and I wish they were because there's not another tag team in the world that deserves it more than the Midnight Express. I mean, not just two of them, all three of them. That's Dennis, Bobby, and Stan with Jimmy Cornette. They are like us, and I was telling the gentleman earlier that we made history in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Not only us by ourselves, but we made tag team history with the Midnight Express. And that's why. But you know what, dude? It's like Jimmy Cornette said before he'd be back on WWE, hell would freeze over. But when he inducted us to the Hall of Fame, hell sure didn't freeze over. So it's no telling. In our business, you never know what's going to happen this day or to the next day because people are trying to get those ratings and get things up, and things that really make sense, they skip over it. But the things that make sense in our business, in the professional wrestling business, especially, is Midnight Express deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It was the greatest thing besides winning the world titles for the first time and being away from the business for a long time. And they called me and asked us about being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Well, I'm gonna say no. Hey, the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life, besides my children being
Wow.
born, and I couldn't believe how how they treated us. I mean, I've never been pampered or had to so much in my life, and not only that, the boys, Vince and Hunter and Stephanie, Linda McMahon. I mean, they treated us like we were really somebody. And see, that things that you don't forget in this business. I always liked Linda McMahon. I always got along with her, even back in the day. She was always my friend. And and then that's then it gets to a part of Vince. It's not Vince that don't like you. It's just that he's got 1,000 people a day trying to get in with him. You understand me? And
Yeah.
he knows that. He can read between the lines. He knows what you're trying to do. So when I'm around him, I say hi, Vince, and I just walk off because I'm not there to ask you for nothing. And Vince he's got that. And Hunter, he's just busier than hell. He's got 10 shows to run. So, but I want to say that I want to thank WWE because, guys, unless you was with us, you could not even imagine. Not only me but my children, my grandchildren. They sent us all to Orlando to watch me get inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame, and everything was first class. I mean, flying on the airplanes and my room at the big place, but me and my wife's room had 3 bedrooms in it, in this big place. So I mean, they didn't stick you in the Motel 6. It was really good. You understand me? Had a
Yeah.
great time, and and not only for me but my children and my wife, the memories that will stick with us our whole lives and their lives. That's when their daddy and grandpa got inducted to the Hall of Fame. You know what? And my ring's in there. I should have it right here doing this. Hey, how y'all doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Good.
with or without a ring, you are a Hall of Famer.
Thank you. I
Uh,
couldn't hear you on that one.
Aziz, do you have a last question for Mr.
Well,
Martin before we call it off?
this question comes from a great friend of mine, Iyad. When was the first time you heard the phrase "sell like Ricky Morton"? And do you remember who coined the term at first? And how was your feeling hearing it?
Aziz, can
Somebody
you?
told me that Vince McMahon said it. It is one of his meetings.
Oh,
It was back. He says that he told somebody, said, when you learn how to sell like Ricky Morton, and then you can draw me money. Go watch tapes of him. And I popped. But Vince
wow.
McMahon told somebody that, and it caught on around, around the world. But it's great. So especially when you work with Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson and God, and Oli, you know, Oli was the most grouchiest guy in the world, but I
Yeah.
loved him. You hear me?
Right.
He was another one I was going to tell you. Uh, he didn't, Oli don't even like ice cream. He's so mean. Go ahead, fellas.
Mr. Morton, it's been a great privilege to speak to you and to pick your brain about the business. You are one of the greatest of all time. Thank you very much for this interview.
Oh, well, thank you. But I wanted to tell everybody out there, and you can find me on Instagram, The Real Ricky Morton, Facebook, School of Morton, or Ricky Morton. Uh, and Twitter, Real Ricky Morton. But I just wanted to say to all my fans, and especially overseas and everywhere, that I never got a chance. That I did get to come over, but I did some military shows. But to get out to meet the fans, no matter where you're at, I want to thank all of you guys for being a big part of my life. This wrestling business is my life. There's nothing else compared to it. They tell you if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. No, but I'm just saying, I love my business. And
Def-
brother, to you, thank you for having me on your show. I'd
It's
love
been
to come back.
it's been a great honor. And Aziz, thank you very much as well for joining us and
Thank
for the
you.
questions.
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take
Thank you,
care.
my friend. Hey, if you're all if you're in the United States uh, and we're somewhere, come and see us.
It will be a
Okay.
great honor
Definitely.
for sure.
Definitely.
Bye.